Welcome everyone on this very special occasion. My name is Tamás Sarangozó. I'd like to welcome you all on this special online discussion on behalf of EPALE and on behalf of the European Basic Skills Network as well. We are here to celebrate the 10th anniversary of our platform, EPALE. Just to give you a little heads up about the program for today, we are going to start with this video stream discussion with two invited experts, and then we are going to move into an online forum discussions where you are invited to share your best moments and highlights related to the platform. What role does Apple play or has been playing in your career? We would like to hear your stories as well. So, without further ado, I'd like to invite our guest speakers, invited experts to the stage, Maria and Maria Toya, adult education expert, and Balázs Német, EPALE ambassador, university researcher, professor of adult learning, adult education. Hi, Maria. Hi, Balázs. Thank you for joining.
Hi, good morning. Excited to be here.
Great. Without further ado, we would like to start with impressions from EPALE users. So I'd like to ask our colleagues to highlight some of the comments, some of the testimonials that we asked from you, our users and colleagues, what EPALE meant for you. And here is Ivana saying that is the common ground, the meeting place for collaboration and knowledge as well as professional growth. This is very important, the learning element. And then Ausra from Latvia, from introducing EPALE as not only a job but a way of life. And it's easy to remember. It's important to remember that EPALE is not only a platform; it is also a professional community where we meet. We do meet personally every now and then. Great. Paolo mentioned that or highlighted the importance of values such as empathy, listening to each other, and especially highlighting these values in marginalized contexts. Christine from Germany, she also highlights the values, the shared values, and this is a very nice comment, Applements Europe, and highlighting the sense of community again. Beautiful, great. What did you think about these comments, Maria?
So I was really happy to see the comment from Ivana because it surprises me to see that people from HR, I don't know what kind of HR, if she works in a private company or in another sector, but I think this is very, very important because throughout the years I felt kind of disconnect between the policies of the European Commission on adult education and learning and employment and stuff and the private sector, because I have worked in the private sector as a learning and development specialist, as a people development specialist, and I could see how people were like a bit, they really didn't understand what adult education meant. It was very much assimilated to adult schooling. So I think it's very important if people, and encouraging if people from the HR, especially from the private sector, if they are like joining forces and coming together and discussing about these things, and I am really happy. I hope there are more users, HR professionals from the private sector, that they are activating on EPALE, that are building networks and community. This is really, really important, especially in the most recent rhetoric, and with the emphasis on skilling and upskilling and reskilling and preparing people for the labor market. This kind of dialogue needs to happen, and people need to be connected. So that's what drew my attention.
Nice. Balázs, did something else stick out for you from the comments?
Very much agree with Maria. and to indicate here that EPALE has helped in a number of ways to emphasize collecting and sharing practices, but also narratives on adult learning and education. And I think it is very, very important that in order to recognize the added value, we are not just talking about adult learning education, but also to relate different practices, different language contexts of adult learning education, and the context of quality and the
Mm,
layer of how we can develop the field and to get the field recognized as professional activity. Therefore, I think it is very much useful to reflect back to the last years of advancements of EPALA, to claim that we have to have attention to various kinds of adult learners and learning environments from formal to non-formal and informal. And I
mm,
think this reason I would certainly understand the resonating voice of these reflections that you have just brought in, that it is very much challenging how we understand the role of EPALA, especially at a time of uncertainties
mm,
and this inequalities. And I think when we talk about some recent crisis situations, we should not forget that learning is for life and not just for jobs.
Very important point. And I really like Christine's comments about stories, but also histories.
Mm.
And both of you have been with Epale for such a long time, having different roles, different caps, hats on when collaborating with the platforms. Can you just summarize a few roles that you took over these past 10 years? Maria, please, would you start?
Yes, I'm pleased to do that. So it's incredible that 10 years they just flew by, because as I was an active member of the EBSN at the time when the bid was written for EPALE, and then I started working as a thematic coordinator for life skills. I remember that there were four big areas of content development and editorial strategy at EPALE, and I was one of the four thematic coordinators, and it was really interesting because I don't think we really knew what we were doing, and we didn't anticipate what EPALE would become. But so what I liked in that moment was that we had these big thematic areas, but they were really, really comprehensive, and they were really covering for the many dimensions and areas of adult education. Because as Balázs mentioned, learning is not just for jobs; it's for life, and this is a risk that we are facing. I have to point that we are facing this risk at this moment in time, especially with the unstable climate, social and economic. And that is the risk of the schoolification of adult education. And I mean, adult education was full of schoolishness. I mean, since the beginning of time. But as maybe from our more informal discussions, at that time when EPALE started, I think that I was also at the very beginning in the early years of my career. And I think that what I managed to get a grasp on at that time was like the end of what I perceived to be the golden era of adult education, because it was more about liberal adult education. It was more about Bildung. So it was very empowering. I mean, even for us as humans, because we are not just professionals, just identities. The people working in the EPALE in the beginning, we were just not just covering some roles. So it was the sense of empowerment and of meaning that we are working towards building something meaningful and something useful. So it for me, professionally and personally speaking, it was really a very, very important milestone in my career and also in my personal life, because I also got to, to work with a lot of professionals. There was a very, very strong community at that time of adult education professionals and experts and people from academia. And I really felt that working together, that meeting of ideas and perspectives and working together towards a shared goal. So I think it really, really shaped me in a very important way when I started working with EPALE 10 years ago, more than 10 years ago.
So inspiring. Yes. In one of our informal discussions, Balázs, you mentioned that it's important to do solid research, but research as a practitioner, research as someone who's present at the field. With this concept, what role has EPALE played in your professional life, or what different roles did you take with the website?
I have to admit that I have followed the formation of EPALE from its very beginning, when my very good friend, a practitioner researcher, Simon Brock from the Netherlands, and a number of his colleagues made this initiative towards the Commission to formulate a platform where people could exchange on good practices around adult learning. That was the time of around 2010, 2011, and it took a number of years to make it real and to make use of the agenda on adult learning 2011 with specific goals to resonate a number of internationally driven focuses. One, the sixth International Conference on Adult Education, UNESCO Confrinter, to bring in the scope of ethics, ethical grounds, equities, equalities. And I think it is something very, very important that in Europe, that was the time when there were lots of difficulties how to keep going with the Grundtvig story, the 13 years of the Grundtvig program, which later ceased or became integrated into the lifelong learning, broad umbrella program. But otherwise, back to your question, I have learned that the national practices would be very, very important to get compared and to receive enough attention, not just in the countries who were there around 2015. 10 years of EU membership made them to deeply engage in a number of initiatives, like those programs involved. But EPALE itself, by 2015, became recognized as a potential resource platform, a reservoir for not only practices, but how to understand adult learners and their changing approach to developing skills, knowledge, and how to involve and reach out to a number of underrepresented groups. And this is where policy and practice might also be bridged in a good way. So I have learned this as a contributor to EPALE, and later I was invited by EPALE Hungary to become an ambassador of the Hungarian EPALE community, one of the ambassadors of the EPALE community in Hungary, and to continue with having to demonstrate that we in higher education environments should never forget that practitioners in adult learning are so much helpful to understand the the deep significance of how to change for something better. And I think I'm lucky enough to have worked with a number of places in adult learning, like museums, like learning in cities, regions, and neighborhoods, and to um, try to stick on the importance of basic skills development, how to understand the rainbow of skills, that you have to have a good ground with basic skills in order to move out and reach up for vocational skills, skills for work, and at the same time to demand for the ongoing development of transversal skills. And if you look out to the world, I think the EPALE discourse and the thematic years of EPALE could bridge, could make it balanced in between the social and the economic, to understand that first of all you have to develop your skills for a number of reasons for your working life, but next to that you have to learn and develop yourself and relate to your community because of a number of roles in your environment. I think I have learned a lot, and I'm very grateful to those people who made it happen, and also to exchange as a researcher and trying to understand some the evolution of learning. I could connect with a number of colleagues across Europe, and I think they make me to feel European, whereby we spend some time in Malta and understand the deep roots of adult learning over there, and then to relate it to Estonia with lovely practices in rural communities. So I think somehow it is very much necessary to relate to this 10 years of time. And for this very reason, I would like just to very gently signal that we need to have these stories be accessible for our future generations. And I just do hope that we may be able to formulate a good repository where these things might be continuously available for people who would like to see these past 10 years. Because
Nice.
sometimes we tend to just close it and start something or carry on with something new. Thank you.
Absolutely. It was such an impressive comments that you both made. What really stays with me is the sense of community. Both of you have been with EPALE for from the start practically, and we also have a comment from Dora, who's also from Portugal, and she's also with the platform right from the start. And she also highlights the sense of community and the different functionalities of the site as well. And what you also mentioned, Balaj and Maria, not only from the professional development point of view, but also from sharing practices, learning from each other's practices. This have been a sense of community with the platform since its start. Nevertheless, what you mentioned about your different roles and expectations towards the platform, it seems that it's not an easy one to live up to. In higher education, in public school system, it's clear we are going towards certification qualifications. In adult education, it's much more diverse, and there could be different roles, different motivations entering learning programs, formally, non-formally. So with that background, with that hopes towards such a website, the question arises, could it really live up to these expectations? Could it really fulfill some of it or most of its hopes that people and users started to build up over the years and over this decade? What are some of the highlights that you would you would share with us that you think the platform could live up to. Yes, I'm here with Maria.
Yeah. Well, that's really a complex question that has very complex answers. But I think, I mean, I don't know. I think that, I'm thinking and, reflecting now as I'm trying to come up with an answer. But I think we need more and more grounding into like real life. And I believe that it should, I mean, if EPALE was to like really serve, adult learning and education in the future, and also play a role in shaping the adult learning and education policy through the collection and the sharing and the extraction of perspectives and feedback from the users, from the practitioners. I think that maybe a bigger emphasis on community, because yes, EPALE is a lot about building community, and a lot of communities have developed over the years, but I still think that there is room for more. And we are coming after a very turbulent time during the COVID, where people were suffering, like basically suffering from lack of real connection and authentic relationships. So it's like going beyond the professional part, going beyond the projects that we are implementing, going beyond the policies that we are developing. I think that this component of building relationships between human beings, I mean, I would really love to see that in the future, not just, as an expectation from EPALE, which is a platform managed by the European Commission, but in general. I think we need to understand, and also as a focus in adult learning and education, because as I mentioned, there is this risk of schoolification, and there is this schoolishness in adult learning and education that we do not really see. And we treat ourselves and we treat learners, I mean, even the fact that we call them learners, we see us human beings more as citizens. And the emphasis is too much on what we should develop and what skills we should acquire, and it's very little about our needs, our human needs. And we have a huge deficit. I'm not really a fan of human rights and people's rights to education. I think this is a very good mask, to bypass human needs, because very often human rights, like supporting human rights, they might be harmful. So we need to have this in mind. So just to sum it up, and not making it too abstract, so like building relationships, like authentic, like real relationships between humans, I think that this is what we are craving the most. I mean, the adult learners that we are talking about, the professionals, I mean, everyone. At the end of the day, this is what is going to get us through everything. And also EPALE, and I mean, everything. I mean, all the discourse around adult education policy in Europe, it has to be very grounded and rooted in the realities of the world that we are living at this point. And I don't want to sound too alarmist, because it's not. I don't perceive it as such. But we are into a collapse, and that's not a bad thing. Collapse is not a bad thing. It's very often it's the birth of something better and nicer for humanity. But we really need to be aware of that, and not bypass this very important topic. So relationships,
I love it, and
relationship building.
I really love this part, and I also really, it resonates with me what you mentioned about collapse. I see it as transformation, being transformed
Exactly.
moment by moment, day by day, week by week. But now it's a little bit more overwhelming, the scale of it. And I also really liked what you mentioned about the context where people are. We need more context for where people are learning, where people experience needs towards. towards learning. And also, we have a comment from Marian who touched on some of these contexts where people are. And Balaji also mentioned the museums as being one of the contexts where learning can happen. And Marian also acknowledged that she's learned a lot, but it would be really nice to see more engagement from so-called non-traditional educators. The whole concept of non-traditional educators just rings a lot of inspiring bells in my mind at the moment, having all the locations where people are in their everyday work and life, just generally. Balazs, great. Thank you. Balazs, what are your thoughts? What are the achievements that EPALE could live up to? I think you're still unmuted.
Yeah. Thank you. If one may look to the themes of EPALE, I think it is somehow to be understood as an evolutionary orientations. It's good to relate to learners, learning environments and skills, than to relate to policy and quality. But in my own understanding, and let me just, for this reason, continue what Maria has highlighted. I think it is very much necessary to emphasize exchange on different practices, and most probably to relate to similarities and differences. Learning for kind of ways how we can relate to the peculiar learning environments. And just to relate to these non-traditional environments of learning, I would most probably recall that I think learning and work is very important. It is necessary to exchange in between the problem of how we may relate learning at the workplace, learning for work, but how to relate that to matters of how we learn for non-vocational orientations, and then to bring in the scope of intercultural and intergenerational orientations. I have learned a lot through the last 10 years of EPALE how valuable learning might be when different age groups may form an exchange in various ways. So that is also the part of our lifelong learning journey, from local to global, and also to relate to intercultural orientations as well, when if not moving beyond, but just right in the heart of Europe, to understand how language and other attributes of intercultural environments like religion and a number of other dimensions, traditions, may need more and more attention in order to rely on diversities, what we can build our own Europe on. So I think adult learning can also be the part of how to formulate society with attention, care, and more real solidarity and exchange amongst learners, because we have so many prejudices, so many difficulties and walls in our societies, that adult learning examples EPALE has been collecting can make it be better understood that learning is transforming. Learning claims reflection from people. And I think it will be very much important to even to claim that EPALE as a platform should be there to claim a holistic understanding of learning and not just simply to render down this for upskilling and reskilling only. So let us believe that even within the European Commission, as it is financing the platform, that citizens of the member states claim that our learning in adulthood is much wider than just to relate it for jobs, which is necessary and very important, but it is not all. And this is what I have learned from a number of regions across Europe, that learning in adulthood is so much valuable and related not only to economies, but also to social and profoundly to environmental matters. Therefore, I think it is important to bring in the scope of place and space and access to those. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Balazs. My colleagues have signed for me that we have some technical issues, but I hope you can still hear me, even if you might not be able to see me.
We can.
Great, great, perfect. So yes, this is very important, the location of the learning, and I'm really happy that you also resonated with this idea. And also, we have one more comment from also an old-timer EPALE contributor, Jumbo from the Netherlands, and he highlights visibility. It's not only important to focus on the location of the learning, but if you think about the platform, visibility is also an important platform. How do we collect feedback? How do we get information about how we use the platform, and to see it in a nice way, to see it in a punctual way, who use it for what, and what motivations people come towards.
But you see, you see, Tamás, this is a problem, and if I may, I just would like to reflect with some critical attention, Maria, that I think it is very much important to provide this visibility, but also to keep our achievements be made accessible, not only in project world. If you look back to the last 20, 25 years of achievements, what we have done since, say, 1995, when we were preparing for a European Year of Lifelong Learning. But since 1995, in the last 30 years, it is very much difficult to understand why a number of projects became inaccessible. So I think we also have to learn from our past that we have to look into the importance of the evolution of adult learning. And I do agree with Jumbo that visibility is very much necessary to ground a good legitimacy for adult learning, that politicians and decision makers and local stakeholders may recognize. But yes, again, it is there that we are the part of the learning journey. It's not just the school system and the training system which makes it relevant and to embrace for quality, but this is us, adult learners, in our communities, which formulate mindset, sensitivity in between one another. Thank you.
Thank you, Balazs. We also have a forward-looking comment from Johanna Larienko from Finland, who also appreciated Maria's comment, Maria's point, and highlights the opportunity that lies within EPALE, but also highlights the fact that we can grow. We can still, there's still a way forward to become much more functioning, to become much more professional in this sense. And I think it's important to highlight that it's the 10th birthday of the platform for such a diverse professional field as adult education. So it's actually a good thing that we have directions to go towards to, and to learn. And of course, we have also mentioned that this is turbulent time, and we experience a lot of change, rapid collapse, rebuilding, unlearning, relearning. in this context. So yeah, it's definitely the bar is high in this sense for this. Great. We also have a question, and a question that I also feel inspired to because it speaks to my personal experiences with the platform. EPALE Latvia asked, how has the EPALE platform influenced your approach to adult education and what opportunities has it offered for your professional development? I think we touched upon the first part in the beginning, but the professional development part is especially interesting because when I started joining EPALE around 2017-18, it was the time where we introduced open education resources, MOOCs, and we both have collaborated in this. And EPALE has been introduced to learning on the platform, learning via the platform. And by now, there are many online courses available through the website. There are lots of advertisements and announcements of learning opportunities. But if you think about your professional development, how has it been touched by EPALE? How have you experienced professionalization or professional development opportunity? Maria, you also commented on this in the beginning with your career. Could you add something to it?
Yeah, so it was very, it I mean, it, as I said, it was a defining moment. I mean, the timing, I think, was perfect. I don't know how people nowadays become, I don't know, adult education specialists, but I went through the traditional route. I studied educational sciences, pedagogy. I fell in love with adult education in the second year of university. Just, I mean, because the idea of liberal adult education and Bildung and stuff like that. So more, the humanistic approach and the caring, as Palar said, the caring and the attention towards people and seeing it as holistic. And I was also very interested in, getting to know everything and to understand everything and to study everything. That's why if you look at my professional career, I did everything. There isn't one corner of adult education that I haven't explored, from doing people development in private companies to doing educational intervention with adults in rural areas, community learning and development, basic skills. And I mean, I did everything because I wanted to to understand the field. And on one hand, as I said, I was very fortunate to have a big community of more experienced professionals around me, also via EPALE, from whom I got the chance to learn a lot, and I had a lot of support. So professionally speaking, I think this is what helped me a lot. Also, I think that as a young professional in adult education, I was quite privileged. Again, I don't know what is the professionalization route nowadays for people to get into adult education, but I think I was privileged because I had access to a lot of European cooperation, a lot of international cooperation. I had great mentors from academia, so I was really, really privileged at that time. And EPALE was just an add-on that allowed me, to like really get, hands-on and practice what I was learning. And yeah, and I mean, in the past years, it was interesting for me because, as you know, I was with one foot outside of, let's say, the adult education field. I was only part-time because I was trying to build in my real life what I perceive to be like too abstract in adult education. So I am the area that stood closer to my heart was community development, community learning and development. And I have been, I spent so many years trying to develop community, for, disadvantaged adults in rural areas in Romania, doing all kinds of projects and intervention. But at the end of the day, it was about building a community for myself. And I am in that stage of my life where I think that we are doing adult education for real. It's really embedded into the very rawness. of life. But that was it was a very good foundation. So it was really important for me, EPALE. And as you know, times went by, I also witnessed like being with one foot in the field and with the other one in my real life, trying to build something for myself, for my community, for my tribe. I was witnessing both the like reading comments and reading getting to know the content on the platform, also participating in various events. I could also see the path that it was taking in terms of policy at the European level. And I was I was really reflecting and learning a lot about myself. How do I position myself as a professional? Because even if I want to burn my diplomas and say I am not an educational specialist anymore, this is a part of who I am. This is a part of my identity. I cannot get rid of that. I cannot wipe out all those years. That's why I'm saying it's very the personal aspect. It's so important when we talk about adult learning and education. But it served as a mirror and trying to reflect on, do I still agree with this perspective? Do I still support this approach? How has my worldview changed? How do I see learning and education? So it's learning is transformational. And when I say learning, I don't refer to education or schooling, because we confuse it a lot. There is this huge terminology confusion that it's so present in in our vocabulary. But learning, like real learning, authentic learning, it's really transformational. It's never just about the training program. It's never just about the course or building of the skills. And I really like it made me think non-traditional educators. I mean, how often do we go back and again, I have to point that out that the school conditioning and the schoolishness in adult education, so much of our perceptions on adult learning and education are influenced by our previous school experiences. And we call these people in museums and I don't know, libraries, we call them non-traditional educators. They are educators. We are all educators to someone. A child is an educator to us. The teacherly authority does not belong just to the teachers, to those that are teaching something that is, I don't know, quantifiable and measurable and valuable, I don't know, for the labor market or for society. So just to sum it up and to close, it also helped me, being in touch with EPALE, to develop more of a critical eye and reflexivity on, where are the truth and what is valid and what is not, what is helpful and what is harmful, maybe for the profession or for us as learners and individuals.
Thank you, Maria. If we think about non-traditional ways of going into adult education, we can definitely think about non-traditional and diverse ways of becoming an adult educator, and definitely one side of it can be a qualified practitioner. But what about mentors? What about people who inspire you day by day? Definitely, definitely. Balázs, would you like to add something to that question, the professional development and EPALE's opportunity?
Shortly, I think profession and professionalization is a very hot topic in adult learning and education, because not only the number of adult learners grow, but the field is becoming a crucial component of how to provide development of, let me put it this way, formation of economies, and at the same time to step forward social cohesion, because people need kind of stability in their lives. And I think adult learning plays a significant role in that. And let me use the term adult and lifelong learning, where we have to cope with different age groups. I would bring in the matter of citizenship, more precisely active citizenship. Because in my own understanding, when we claim professionalization, let us not forget about those thoughts and teaching words of a number of thinkers, like we revisit in these years for a number of reasons, Paulo Freire and his thoughts on how to teach. And I think it is very, very important that we try to address responsibility. Like in our understanding, and I have learned with a number of EPALE partners across Europe, for example, learning with older adults in the Netherlands, with Jumbo Clerk, or to go out and have a good look into how people learn in the Suceava region in Romania, in their localities. And this is a reminder, let us not forget about realities, how people live. And I think it is also the story that we must consider people across Europe as active citizens, critical thinkers. And I think it is very important how Peter Jarvis put this. Active citizenship is the way how you learn to become and how you exercise responsibility. And I think this is our role, as if we may claim professionalization, to learn as an adult educator, that you learn with adults. You learn and develop together with your learners. And I think it is a warning that never underestimate yourself as an educator, and never overestimate yourself, but try to have a good collaboration, a good dialogue. And I think if I have learned anything from Maria today, this is the claim for dialogue and understanding and respect. So I think this is what I have learned from a number of stories in EPALE, a number of blogs in EPALE, that this is about the way how we understand the process of teaching and learning with adults. And I think this is something necessary. And for this reason, I would like to close that if we have a policy document like a new European agenda on adult learning, I think we also have to adjust EPALE topics to that particular scope of this agenda and to resonate. What are those areas that we may bring in as examples, for example, of good outreach and counseling, how to work with people who need attention and help. I think professionalization, professional development in adult education is not just about methods and content, but how we are working it out, how we try to formulate places, environments for learning to make it inclusive. And I think it's a challenge in a world of uncertainties, in a Europe of uncertainties. I think still we have hope, and hope is very important in learning, that we have hope to understand. If we learn more, we understand and we respect more. So I'm very grateful that you invited me here to share and to collect some good thoughts. Thank you.
Thank you so much. It's been a very, very inspiring discussion, and I'm glad to say that it's not over. We are moving towards the forum part of discussion. Maria Balázs, thank you very much for your thoughts. We have highlighted today the human nature of learning, the becoming, and also the complexity of adult learning, but not only as an institutional background, but as a very human process of transformation as the time passes. In peaceful times, in turbulent times, this is happening. So the lifelong learning for life, is one of the core elements of the platform as well. We have one more comment from Adriana acknowledging that the importance of lifelong learning as a mission for life, but as a mission during and with life, as life happens, we incorporate learning. Thank
And
you very much.
just one comment,
Yes.
Tomasz. I think it is very important, and Maria reminded us very well that we are to demonstrate the civil society voice in adult learning and education, and to remind governments that when they may consider what is the political in adult learning education, not to forget about people and the needs of people across Europe. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And EPALE is user based, so it is our time to use EPALE, put content on it in this respect as well. So we are going to continue with the online discussion part. Feel free to comment your bit related to our video stream, but also please post the most significant moment that you had in EPALE for us to see your personal success stories, impactful memories, experiences. And you can also feel free to post some innovative uses that you like to see, or some of the comments that are inspired by Maria and Balazs's discussion today. Thank you very much for
Thank you.
being with us, and Maria,
Thank you.
Balazs, thank you for sharing your thoughts.